What's up guys, Chris here with another Eden Zero manga chapter review, and I have to say, these last couple of chapters for Eden Zero have been really good. I didn't think we'd get a bunch of good moments after Shiki versus Shura so early in the arc, but then we got in the last chapter, we got Homura versus one of the oceans, and the unveil of her overdrive form, which is honestly really badass, and I loved seeing it last chapter, and it was such a pleasant surprise. While it was expected that the Eden Zero crew would end up getting overdrive, it was nice to see it come without us really expecting it to happen. And at the end of the last chapter, with Djinn going off to find Shiki, we get the ominous reveal that there's a huge crater and a pile of charred up robots. And that's essentially where last chapter ended off. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so and like the video and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos, as I am also going to be doing Eden Zero manga chapter reviews weekly, as I have been doing over the past few months. And also, at the time of this video coming up, there is also a brand new series of videos that will be uploaded onto my channel at least twice a month, called Eden Zero Explained, where I do explanation type videos talking about certain aspects of the series and characters from Eden Zero and their abilities, and fully explain them to the best of my abilities. The videos themselves will get update videos later down the road when more aspects of characters do end up getting further explained and more powers are added. But for now, those videos will be updated only up to the point of me recording, and then if a lot more new stuff comes out, I will end up adding on with a part 2 to each particular Eden Zero Explained video. But with that out of the way, let's get started with the video. Chapter 146, Before We Part. And this chapter starts off where the last chapter ended, with Djinn coming across the giant crater with all those robot remains. And as he looks closer, he sees that the robot remains are actually shaking, and he finds Shiki buried underneath all of them. As we know, last time Shiki was attacked by all those robots that Shura had hidden underground, and they all piled up on top of him as one of them was about to self-destruct. Djinn goes up to check on Shiki, essentially being very impressed at the fact that he managed to survive an explosion of that magnitude, but upon closer inspection, he sees that Shiki is crying, and he asks what's wrong. And with that, we cut right back to the fight with Homura and Milani, one of the oceans, after her ether gear has been activated. Milani is surprised that Homura managed to shatter all of her mirrors, and Homura then confirms what Milani was trying to say last time, that she said that androids do not have lives. But she just straight up says they do, because they have hearts. Milani activates another ability from her ether gear called Mirage Trick, as she essentially creates a bunch of doppelgangers to attack Homura. But easily and without any real hesitation, Homura just slashes up all of them without any real problem whatsoever, much to Milani's surprise. And then Homura uses another new technique, Warrior Made Single Sword Attack Kitsune Perfect Circle Strike, which, after this, is the finishing blow to defeating Milani. And with that, this fight has ended, and Homura has deactivated her overdrive. Now on the ground, Milani seems to be breaking down, just saying this. She always knew. She knows that androids have lives, and that she even knows that what Prince Shura is trying to do is wrong. And she flashes back to the old android that Shura destroyed, the former member of the Ocean Six, that he just straight up murdered in the beginning of this arc. And Milani, flashing back, seemed to be not affected by this, but looking back, she actually started to shed tears as we get a brief flashback of her as a child talking to this android, basically saying that when I want to grow up, I want to be in the oceans, with that robot basically believing in her, saying, I'm sure you will, I have no doubt. As now Milani just breaks down crying, saying that she was just really scared. She was so scared. Grandpa died, and she treats this android like her grandfather, similar to how Shiki treated Ziggy as his grandfather, presumably because that android raised her ever since she was a child, similar to Shiki. It just says she couldn't do anything. She was just that scared, despite her beloved grandfather dying. She's even questioning why she's even telling Homura this. And Homura just responds to the fact that they're inside a mirror. Mirrors reflect one's truth. We then circle back to where Shiki and Djinn are, as Djinn asks once more what exactly happened here. Shiki, still trembling with tears in his eyes, basically flashes back to and tells him what happened. Shiki gets piled on by a bunch of the robots as the other one just is about to self-destruct and blow up. But what we didn't see in the previous chapters was that the robots piling on top of Shiki were still sentient. He's apologizing to him and just saying that the guy who was being set to self-destruct can't stop himself, and they can't stop him as well. But they also know that Shiki really want that they really don't want to kill humans, and they realize how much of a nice guy Shiki actually is, and that he cares about robots, especially ones like them, and that he is not like Shura. So at the very least, in their final moments, they can protect him. As Shiki is trying to get them to stop this, they just say, "Don't be sad. We were doomed to die tomorrow anyway." Shiki tries to struggle out as the robot about to self-destruct begins the self-destruct sequence as the counter reaches 0. As right before the explosion, it says with a tear in its eye, "But really, I don't want to die," thus giving us that huge ass explosion. So it was nice to see that despite those robots being programmed to obey Shura's orders, they still had enough willpower to just pile on top of Shiki to shield him from the blast. So it goes to show how durable these old bots actually are, despite them being scheduled to be scrapped, and still having enough sentience to want to protect someone and also be afraid of death. Shiki is still crying, just stating the fact that they protected him. Djinn looks around, and then Shiki wipes the tears from his eyes as he says they have to get back to the Eden Zero. Hermit needs him there. And then we cut right back to the Eden Zero with Shiki and Djinn looking for the crew, saying that the girls are on the bridge. And then when we flash straight to there, we see a pretty shocking sight with Hermit and Sister basically broken up and utterly defeated. I don't know how badly they've been injured, but they are very seriously broken, limbs missing, and they're cracked. Hermit calls out to Shiki in tears from her eyes, and she says that Shura and Sister says that Shura was there, and Hermit just says that he took Witch with tears in her eyes, and her right eye seems to be blinded, as if she was hit hard enough that she no longer can see out of that eye. After hearing this, Shiki is muchly understandably extremely pissed and angry, as much as we all are after seeing what just happened and hearing that one of his friends and one of the beloved characters has been taken hostage by Shura. As the end of the chapter flashes over to Shura's side, seemingly back at the base, with Witch shackled up to a wall, basically just saying, "Come on, Shiki, come and play. We're friends, aren't we?" As the chapter ends. So, I have to say this. Mashima is doing a really, really good job at making us hate Shura. I mean, it's one thing to attack all members of the Eden Zero crew or to hold them hostage till Shiki gets there, but he actually follows through on essentially breaking the Shining Stars, and then he just kidnaps Witch as a way to ensure Shiki can go to him in his own playground, essentially. And I have to say, it honestly almost broke my heart again seeing Hermit in like that much pain and despair, because when we first saw her backstory and all the trauma she endured, one thing, and I'm sure everyone reading Eden Zero had thought, she must be protected at all costs. I do not want her to cry ever again or experience that much pain. And lo and behold, she's experienced another level of pain and having one of her friends taken from her after being beaten down senselessly. Though I have to say, I am kind of glad we did not see Shura just utterly destroy them, presumably in a very, very, very brutal way from what I can tell. And I think Mashima might have held back a bit on making it like even worse, because based on Shura's character, he probably could have done a lot worse, but probably just left him like that so she can have a little bit of hope so he can crush it. And yeah, that's essentially the chapter. Another good chapter for Eden Zero, and I like how now we're going for Shiki has to go. He has to go to where the rest of the crew currently is heading, since, well, he has to go save Witch. And right now, I believe Djinn is probably going to hang back, and as well as Laguna and Clean are probably going to come back to Eden Zero to help Sister and Hermit recover, so that they can join the fight later on down the road. But right now, I have a feeling with after everything that's going to happen, Shiki is definitely going to have to go all in on this fight. Now, I know it's a common thing for shonen stories to not go all out right at the beginning, but I honestly believe that with what just happened, with Shiki having been protected by a bunch of robots that Shura doomed to die, and with Shura essentially just destroying three of his best friends, his crewmates, and abducting one of them, he has to be, and he's incredibly pissed. Probably have like he's gonna have a murderous look in his eye. I want Shiki to just bust in against Shura in his overdrive stage from the very start, because Shiki, he wasn't playing around originally, but now he probably has all the rights to just straight up want to murder this guy. He does not want to be friends with Shura, and he just right now I think he's just gonna want revenge. And we'll also have to deal with what's going to happen with Homura and the rest of the group, because now that Milani has been defeated, I think she's going to send Homura back to the main group, and Milani, maybe she'll join up with them to help stop this whole plan, even though she does turn traitor, or she'll just stay behind and just stay defeated so she doesn't interfere with Shura and invoke his wrath right away. We'll probably end up seeing more of the Oceans fighting against Eden Zero crew. It's very possible that Shiki might have to fight one himself before fighting Shura, or it honestly all depends. This arc can still go either way, because as of right now, it's honestly been pretty unpredictable at this point, because we got the battle against the big bad at first, and it wasn't even Shiki actually losing to him the first time, similar to how a lot of shonen villains tend to do things, is beat the protagonist, seemingly leave him for dead, and then the protagonist comes back healed up and stronger. This time, Shiki was just caught off guard, and Shura just dipped out of there. He just didn't feel like fighting at that point, and he just wanted to destroy Shiki mentally. But one thing you gotta wonder is what made Shura the way he is. Despite Shiki essentially rejecting being friends, Shura still has it in his mind that they will be friends. So I want to get a full-on Shura backstory to see what made him so mentally deranged. And honestly, someone that I straight up want to see punched in the face full force. But yeah, that was this week's chapter of Eden Zero. It was shocking. It had a lot of twists and turns compared to a lot of other chapters, and it could be one of the best chapters of this arc so far in terms of setup and also stakes. Because right now we got the three shining stars were always good for backup, primarily because they were seemingly stronger than the other Eden Zero crew, primarily like Rebecca and Wise. But now two of them have been essentially injured beyond belief, and they might have been taken out of this fight completely, at least until the end, in which has been in fact taken captive, and there's not much to know about what's going to happen next. But yeah, another great chapter. I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm liking how unpredictable a lot of these situations can be, and the fact that with Milani confessing that she knows what Shura is doing is wrong, but is just too scared to do anything despite someone she really cared about dying in front of him by his hands, shows that we might actually have some members of the Oceans that have a conscience and do not approve of what Shura is doing, since there was only one member of the Oceans that was essentially an old man that is still over with Poseidon Nero back on Nero Planet 1, the temple, and that essentially would leave off with probably like 3 or 4 members left at this point, so I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. But that's essentially it for this review. What did you guys think of this chapter? What do you think of what happened with the 4 shining stars? Do you think we should have seen like at least a bit of a fight or a bit of what happened to further cement our hatred of Shura? What do you think of Homura just straight up obliterating Milani with her overdrive? Once again, how did you like Homura's overdrive? I liked it. I think it's the best design by far. Probably second to Shiki. But I've seen Shiki's more, so if we see more of Homura's overdrive, it'll probably be my favorite. And what do you think the rest of the matchups could end up being, and how this whole arc itself can play out? Leave it down in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. And don't forget to check out my Eden Zero Explained videos, as I will be doing those most likely 2 times a month, hopefully, if all goes well. And I will also update those as newer stuff comes out. But without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all had an awesome day.